Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink.
I got you.
Let's go.
And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition here of the Mountain Steel Podcast. On this Steelers versus Colts Week 16 game day preview, I'll make it a little bit short, and I'm a little bit running behind. I want to apologize to those of you who did not see the post-game show. I was not available this past week. I had my mind pulled away on some other priorities and some training on some stuff. Other than that, I just want to get straight to the point real quickly right now. Steelers find themselves in a very key situation, a very crucial time of their season. They're starting off 11-0, three-game losing streak, beginning with the Washington football team. I'm sure a lot of people really was expecting for this Steelers team to really set the tone and kind of just blow that off and just fell back down to earth after that. It did not happen. I mean, we've been seeing signs of this team throughout the year, and I would even start back as early as like the home opener, but more noticeably with the Tennessee Titans when they had a 20-point lead back in that game right there. When you really dissect where this Steelers team was, that was back in week number 6, which would have been versus the Ravens, but because of the Titans' COVID issues, the game kept rescheduling the game, as everyone remembers. But within that game right there, I felt the Steelers were doing a wonderful job controlling the clock right there. They had a good running game. And also, too, in that game, let's not forget, they also snapped a 24-game streak without having a touchdown on their opening drive. Prior to that, their last touchdown opening drive was 2 years prior to that. That was against the Patriots in Week 15 in the 2018 season right there, where Steelers really needed a big-time desperation win. They were able to upset the Patriots that night, win by a touchdown, which was a historic win in the color rush uniforms. But then you look at this year right now, and since that win over the Tennessee Titans right there, I mean, when you really look at it and digest it here, I mean, after starting off 6-0, right now, I mean, they're on fumes right now, and 8 straight games right now where they did not start off their opening drive with a touchdown. I mean, you're probably seeing on this team is putting up some field goals on there, or you're going 4 and out where they're forced to punt or a turnover. That has been one of the frustrating things of this season. Now, I will say this, and just a quick recap to the Bengals game on Monday night. I thought Ben Roethlisberger, the parts that really made him look terrible in that game, I mean, when you look at the guy's body of work right now, when we truly look at everything that's been happening with this team, I mean, you see a guy like Ben Roethlisberger right now who's got 30 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, which is still pretty darn good. I mean, a lot of people are really questioning how, like this guy's starting to become washed up. I mean, this guy right now is 7th in the league in passing touchdowns, but not having so much trust in the run game. I think a lot of it has to start with the fact, too, is that you're not getting enough of a push by the Steelers' offensive front to knock guys around right there. I remember I had Stan Savern, a guy for Pittsburgh Sports Talk Radio, beginning of the year, he was saying that he wanted to see them get a lineman that could push people around. Did not happen. So here's where we're at right now as far as in terms of this season right now. I mean, you look at Steelers were shut out in the first half of that game against the Bengals. They did manage to put up only 17 points for the total. Lost that game 27-17. I think the biggest thing, too, that was disheartening in that game when you really look at it, too, I mean, that Steelers loss, which was really brutal right there for the fact you didn't have Joe Burrow in that game. You lose to a second or third string quarterback in that game right there in Ryan Finley. He only had 89 yards of passing, but the running game did show up in this contest right there. The Bengals on the ground in that game for the rushing yards, they had 152 yards off 41 attempts. So they pretty much outgained Steelers by 66 yards, which was an abomination right there. And you really start to be a head scratcher with this team and what else could go wrong here. That's the thing. I mean, you see Roethlisberger starting to put like too much work and passing, hardly any running. And the biggest thing is, too, where I'm really getting concerned with, too, when you look at the Steelers team closely, they are putting a lot of their eggs in their basket. I think more so with Ben Roethlisberger since he's the quarterback. I'm sure he's going to bat for this guy. But you really look at right now, I mean, on this team right now, you got Deontay Johnson, who's the most targeted receiver on this group right now, 126, followed by Juju Smith-Schuster with 107, and Chase Claypool with 92 catches on the year, followed by Eric Ebron, 84. I think that's part of the problem. If you're going to be going into these pass-heavy attacks, doing these quick, short passes, I mean, you're giving most of the attention to Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson, who's been horrible with not securing the ball, which has been a noticeable problem throughout the year. Everyone could see. But I do believe right now they're not spreading the wealth around properly. And it starts with a lot of these short passing quick slants, these dink and dunk passes on the West Coast. And then even when Ben Roethlisberger is trying to throw on the run, I think he's starting to really lose his eye vision as far as, like reading guys down the field properly. And like I said, I go back to it being the offensive line. He's been one of the most protected quarterbacks in the league, the top protecting offensive line, not allowing any sacks hardly, simply because one of the reasons is because his quick release. And that kind of tells you right there, because I think for Ben Roethlisberger to be able to open up and throw a deep ball, you have to at least get comfortable in the pocket some way, somehow, and be able to make your reads properly. If he's able to do that, I think they'll be okay. I think that's one of the biggest issues. You have to at least some point be able to drop back, make your reads, and then we'll see where it goes. Other than that, I'm looking at a team right now who is playing on fumes right now this late in the season. You got a Cleveland Browns team right now who, I mean, during this time will not go away. And the Steelers, who did beat them earlier in the season in their first half of their games, since their loss to the Raiders, the Cleveland Browns right now have went 5-1 the game with the Houston Texans. And if the Steelers are not careful, we may see a winner take all for the division next week. That's a scary thing, the reality about where they're at right now, where this team is headed in this moment. I'd like to hear your thoughts right now. Again, you can follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey for the Mass Steel Podcast. On Twitter, it is at Mass Steel CGR, and on Instagram at Mass Steel Nation. So let's go ahead and take a look at it right now. According to Dale Lally at DK Pittsburgh Sports, Stephon Tuitt just became the third Steelers defensive lineman to reach double digits in sacks in a season since it became an official stat in 1982. Cam Hayward and Keith Willis are the others. Also, too, I mean, the most interesting thing about this, too, Roethlisberger calling this players-only meeting, stressing the importance of what it's like to be in the playoffs. I mean, when you speak to young players about the significance of playoff football, I mean, he pretty much said half the guys in that room on the offensive staff did not have any of it. There were a lot of veteran guys who spoke up on that. He did bring up his former offensive coach, Mike Munchak, right there. So a guy who had served 30 years in this league as a career as a player and as a coach has only made it to the Super Bowl one time. And I thought that was very noble, very telling right there. I mean, just no Ben Roethlisberger, his loyalty to his offensive lineman, really not a surprise right there. So let's see if that's able to wake him up today. If not, I mean, if I'm the Steelers, I'm going to have like a Bill Russell mentality of the Boston Celtics against the Browns, like how they used to own the Lakers. You gotta have the mindset of they can't beat us. I mean, this is a different Browns team, not the same old Browns team. So we'll see what happens. I think one of the interesting quotes they said throughout the week was like, when you play like poo, you should get talked about like that. Roethlisberger said, and he did admit he still needs a play bar. As far as the Steelers' injury report going to this game, Marcus Allen, inside linebacker, has Stinger, outside linebacker. Ola Adeni with a shoulder, and kicker Chris Boswell groin have been ruled out for tomorrow's game versus Colts. Also, inside linebacker Ulysses Gilbert, ankle, and running back Anthony McFarland illness are questionable. And as far as the Colts injury report, they have left tackle Anthony Costanzo, knee and ankle, and wide receiver Marcus Johnson are out. Marcus Johnson, he's dealing with a quad. Then on the other players note too, defensive end El Quad Dean is questionable with an ankle. And then also some more news regarding the Steelers roster. They have announced at 1:47 p.m. Central Time that they have signed linebacker T. Skills to the 53-man roster. And they have elevated kicker Matthew Wright to the active and inactive roster from the Panthers squad and waived guard Duran Gray. And also, too, the biggest headline also as well, Juju Smith-Schuster saying that he's not going to be dancing on logos for the betterment of the team. We'll see how that continues to translate. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up, and let's get into keys to the game. Key number one, Steelers run defense. Jonathan Taylor for the Colts is 11th in the league with 842 yards and 7 touchdowns, along with 35 receptions for 298 yards for 219 touches and 1,140 yards with 8 touchdowns. Steelers offensive line versus the Colts offensive line. Defensive tackle DeForest Buckner and defensive end Justin Houston have 15 sacks combined, 7.5 apiece. So see the offensive line, they're going to need to find a way to get that push somehow. And then also, too, the Steelers offense, they need to find a way to start with a lead. As I just mentioned, 8-game streak currently right now of not having an opening drive touchdown. Last one was at 24 games from the win over the Patriots 2 years ago. That's going to do it for this edition here of the Mouse Joe Podcast. Once again, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, at Prodigy Richey. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.